Colourful by Andrew Brown, Mortdale 2223. Narrated by David Tredinnick. Maybe I should have known the red tree and green fire truck would have given the game away. My drab little secret that I saw the world differently.
Are you colourblind, Matthew Gray?
No, miss.
Then why is your tree red?
It was a fine tree, a chunky brown trunk reaching out lithe, tanned limbs, clutching clumps of leaves. Evidently red. Though, apart from the leaves, which I'd intended to be green, this was a splendid tree for a 7-year-old to have drawn.
The tree, miss, is on fire.
Really? On fire?
Yes, miss. It was struck by lightning.
Well, let's hope the fire doesn't spread then. Miss Brown, the teacher, muttered as she continued doing the rounds of her class. Too red. That was when I added the fire engine. Peering over my shoulder, she said,
I'm not saying it's impossible, Matthew Gray, but then it's not very likely, is it? Have you ever seen a green fire truck?
Miss Brown took Dad aside when he came to pick me up after school.
Is Matthew colourblind, Mr. Gray?
Dad noticed my drawing. Wow! The fire brigade to the rescue. Now that's what I call a masterpiece. This little beauty will take pride of place in my office. Driving home, Dad quizzed me on the colours of everything. We were stopped at the traffic lights. What do you call that colour, Matt?
Red.
And now the light has changed. What colour is it?
Green.
Do the colours look different?
No.
Then how can you tell them apart?
Red's on the bottom, green's on the top, and orange is in between.
Attaboy, Matty. We were beeped by the car behind as the top light still glowed. Green for go. The impatient driver overtook us with a roar as we approached the next set of traffic lights. Now, Matt, quick, what colour is that?
Orange, now red.
Attaboy! Dad must not have seen the red brake lights of the impatient car flare before us because we stopped with a jolt and a crunch. As Dad reversed, we tore off the front car's rear bumper bar. Let's just say some colourful language was exchanged, as I suppose were insurance details. And as you can imagine, Mum was unimpressed, especially when Dad blamed his own colourblindness. Bringing home the odd bunch of green bananas is one thing, but this, she said, waving at the mangled car in the driveway, is something else entirely. Months later, Dad took me to the local library, he said, for a surprise. He'd secretly entered my drawing into an art competition, and I was awarded a prize. Well, a fancy certificate which Dad read as we moseyed to the corner milk bar to celebrate. To Matthew Gray, for letting us see the world differently. Dad bought us each a bottle of soft drink. Lime-flavoured, we thought, but the fizzy beverage tasted more like raspberry. Clinking our bottles together, Dad toasted, To Matt Gray, may you live a long and colourful life. And indeed, I have. My singular use of colours has become my trademark, with my paintings selling steadily over the years. You may have even seen one or two hanging in a gallery somewhere. Matisse meets Kandinsky, as one critic kindly put it, though such an accolade pales into insignificance beside another momentous meeting. That meeting occurred when I was still a struggling artist. Matt Gray meets Macy Green. I remember our first date as if it was 40 hours ago rather than 40 years. We were seated at a window table at a homey restaurant with a stunning view of the surefire sun kissing the horizon before vanishing. An accomplished musician, Macy explained how she experienced sounds as music. For me, each sound elicits its own distinct colour. They call it synesthesia, she said, but I call it my gift. And what do you see, I mean, here, now? I asked. When you speak, Matt, it sounds just like a rainbow. Rather than just accepting this as a statement of fact, or even as a compliment, I confessed to my colourblindness and how my rainbow would look very different from hers. I still recall her reply. Well, Matt, Isn't that the wonderful thing in life? And she nodded towards the horizon's soft golden glow. You can see your rainbow, and I can hear mine, and yet we could, if we dared, ride our different iridescent arcs to the very same pot of gold. And indeed we have. Goldie Green Grey was born some years later, not for want of trying. I remember Goldie once asking one of those wide-eyed questions young children tend to ask, "What made me?" And without a moment's thought, I answered, "Love, of course." Perhaps I shouldn't have been surprised by the not-so-subtle eye-roll Goldie gave in response, or that she would be so readily satisfied by her mother's more vivid explanation. "Well, Goldie, I must say it was really hard work making you. A double rainbow had to become one." And here Maisie and I sit, at the same table, in that same homey restaurant as on our first date, gazing out the same window at the freshly washed world. We marvel at the light reflected twice within the same distant raindrops to project against the grey sky the spectacle of a double rainbow. What perfect conditions to celebrate the birth of our first grandchild. As our fluted glasses, brimming with bubbles, meet with a tinkle, Maisie describes the shower of shooting stars she hears, before toasting, "To our daughter's daughter," whatever you may be called. And I can but add, "May you live a long and colourful life." The end.